Robert, I was just wondering where you stood on this minimum wage situation, and if young people should be paid equally to any worker.
Well, I think it's a difficult one because, of course, we want young people to be paid a proper, fair wage. But you also don't want to disincentivise employers from taking on young people. You know what? I started work age 16. I was working in bars and cafes and restaurants, washing dishes, serving people. And it's really important that employers have an incentive to take you on and to train you up and to give you your first chance in life. And at the moment, a lot of employers don't feel they can do that because of changes in the minimum wage and because of the national insurance hike that Rachel Reeves has pushed through. And that, at the end of the day, is just going to be massively detrimental to young people who need that first step on the ladder.
I'll ask you about the National Grooming Gangs inquiry. What's your response to two survivors who've quit the liaison panel for that inquiry? They claim they were being silenced, and they also cite a toxic, fearful environment. They're claiming that the government is sabotaging the national inquiry.
Yeah, I think it's a total disgrace. But let's be honest, Keir Starmer never wanted this inquiry in the first place. His MPs voted against it time and again when we pushed them on it at the beginning of this year. Eventually, he agreed to do it. Now he's spent 4 months setting it up. It doesn't even exist today. All he's managed to do so far is set up this panel, and now some of the bravest of the brave, the survivors who were on this panel beginning the preparatory work for the inquiry, have resigned. Why? Because they said they're being demeaned, they're being treated appallingly by the Home Office and the ministers there. They're having to submit questions in advance. They can't even speak their own minds in public. The scope of the inquiry is being distorted so that it's not actually just going to focus on grooming gangs, this very particular national scandal. It's being diluted so that it doesn't even focus on the religious element of this, which is Muslim men, British, Pakistani men tackling white young girls.
The Prime Minister did not want this inquiry. Could you just spell it out to people why he would not want this inquiry? I understand the consequences you're talking about and the things that happened, but what do you think his motive is to not want this inquiry?
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cybercriminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C-18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Well, I think he didn't want it for two principal reasons. One, because he didn't want to embarrass the Labour councils in parts of the country where grooming gangs have been prevalent and where council leaders and officials did nothing to tackle this issue. In fact, may well have been part of the cover-up. And secondly, because he was worried about upsetting the sectarian vote that the Labour Party is losing right now in some of those places, and so he was too fearful of taking on this issue, and he also just can't accept that the ideology that he's been a part of, that multiculturalism is an unalloyed success, is not correct, and that actually we have imported some people into our country over the course of the last 30 or 40 years with terrible attitudes towards women and girls, and that, I'm afraid, is driving, in part, these appalling scandals like grooming gangs. Starmer just wants to bury his head in the sand. He can't accept what's really going on in our country.
Part of the issue is the chairman for this national inquiry, and there's been suggestions that a social worker should chair it, perhaps a police officer should chair it. Obviously, survivors want somebody totally independent, away from the systems. Do you think this should be scrapped entirely, this national inquiry, and we start again with a judge? This needs to be led by a judge.
Well, look, almost all of the really important national inquiries we've had in recent years have been led by senior judges. Infected Blood, COVID, Grenfell, Hillsborough, you name it, the government of the day has chosen a senior judge. So what is different about this one? Why are the victims of grooming gangs not worthy? I don't understand what's going on here. It seems, though, as if Keir Starmer is trying to downplay this. He's kicking it into the long grass, and then he's choosing somebody who isn't of the same standing as has been chosen for other similar public inquiries in recent times. And the big problem with this is that the grooming gang scandal cuts across all sectors of the British state. The British state has basically been complicit in a massive scandal over the course of the last 25 years or so. And that includes the police, it includes social services. And as GB News has shown through the reporting of Charlie Peters and others, this is going on in 40 or 50 parts of the United Kingdom, maybe more than that. And so many social services and police forces have been a party to this, have covered it up, have turned a blind eye for fear of being labelled racist. So yes, I do understand where the survivors are coming from when they say that maybe choosing a senior police officer or a senior figure from the social services establishment is not a good idea. Let's choose someone, who is totally detached from this issue, who is therefore can be somebody of the highest integrity, who everyone can have confidence in, even if necessary, choose somebody who's from overseas. So they're not part of the British establishment whatsoever. Maybe a senior judge from a common law country like Australia or Canada who can come in with a fresh pair of eyes, and no one can say you've got mates who worked in these sectors who might have been responsible for this. That is what we need to do.
Talking about the British establishment, doesn't get any much more establishment than Andrew Windsor. What would you do there? He's been associated with Virginia Giuffre, which he denies, of course, in every way. Do you think more should be done to chastise Prince Andrew?
Look, I think everyone is now sick of Prince Andrew. He's disgraced himself. He's embarrassed the royal family time and again. He should just go and lead a quiet life now, away from the public gaze. He certainly shouldn't be drawing on the taxpayer in any way. No more subsidies for luxury homes for him. Enough is enough. And yes, he should do everything he can to help the victims of the appalling scandal, the abuse of Jeffrey Epstein, get the justice and the answers that they need. It's ultimately up to him what he chooses to do, whether he goes to the US and answers questions. But those victims deserve those answers, and he should do all he can to support them.
Were you aware that he's been deemed a national security risk by the security services? This is over his close links to alleged Chinese spies.
Well, I've read those reports in the papers. I wasn't aware of them myself beforehand. But look, on many different fronts, he's embarrassed himself and he's embarrassed the royal family. And I think the King deserves great respect for the way in which he's handled this in recent weeks. It's a tough decision for him as a brother and the head of a family. But he's made the right call, and now it's for Prince Andrew, frankly, to do the right thing for once himself and just remove himself from public life forever.
We've got to remove you, Robert Jenrick. We're out of time. We thank you for your comments this morning and contributing to the programme. We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.